long ago, Elon Musk made a comment that if you want to change the world, you need to work 80 to 100 hours a week. Hello, my Georgie. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, that's about what I do, right? That makes sense. And it was this huge outrage. How could he say that? That's not true. Work life balance, wah, wah, wah. And it is true. And that is the way it is. And because the majority of the population doesn't live that way, it's hard for anybody to fathom that that is true, possible, or even healthy. The thing is that how you work when you start to become, let's say, industry leader in whatever, or successful person in XYZ, the work is different. It's not standing over a hot stove or waiting tables or driving a forklift that's physically and intellectually demanding, that there's no way you could do it. You can't drive a truck 100 hours a week. You're going to get into an accident. So it's not like that. 60% of it is all up in here. And things change or get done in endless meetings, endless phone calls, endless conferences online, you know what I mean? Endless attending of things. So it's a very social work, but it is intellectually draining. But because the nature of the work is so social, most of it, is done in, let's say, restaurants or banquet halls or, nice conference rooms or whatever. Because it's so physically relaxed and sometimes in a beautiful social setting, it doesn't feel all the time like you're working. You know what I mean? Not in the traditional break a sweat kind of thing, right? Which is how we manage it. But it's still there's no way you can give something 100 hours a week and it not be all consuming, not take over your life, not affect your marriage. You know what I mean? Like, it will impact you, how you raise your children. And I remember my dad owned restaurants when I was, just coming into adulthood. He got into the restaurant business and I never saw him, and he never attended anything of mine. He never was around. Every conversation was a 5-minute thing. And anytime I needed to see him, because sometimes you need a dad, he would say, well, come see me at the restaurant. And oh, I used to get so mad because I would go to the restaurant and he served me a beautiful meal. So, I should be grateful. But every conversation was like, so tell me what's going on. Hey, Joe, how are you? So what's going on? Hey, yeah, table 5, they're still waiting. How are you going to have a conversation like that? And it was so bad that one time I remember driving to his house and sitting in the parking lot, in the driveway, till 1:30 in the morning, waiting for him to get home so that I could have a conversation with him that was not dominated by constant interruptions. So, sorry about the bum. Uh, so it does, it affects everything, and there's no way it couldn't. Even Oprah Winfrey said that one of the reasons she didn't pursue being a parent is because she knew that with her life her kids would end up hating her, much why I'm child free as well, because I'm selfish. I want my life to be mine so that I could do with it everything I want professionally, because I'm very ambitious. But my ambitions are not completely self-serving. Like, I'm one of those people that wish to create a legacy, and that wish to create a legacy, and that legacy, involves making the world a better place, and that is not an easy task, and it takes time, and it gets all consuming. So when your brain is focused here, because you're looking at the big picture, positive change, creating legacy, helping society, blah, blah, blah. So when you're here, building industry, it it's hard for your brain to click back down to here, to remember that Susie's daughter has a recital next week and you should ask how it went, or that so and so has an anniversary coming up, or whatever, and your time becomes so consumed, because I want you to do the math, what it means working 80 to 100 hours a week. Like, so when do you socialize? Like, when do you get, and it's like, well, you should prioritize. Well, that not when you're changing the world. I'm sorry. Not when you're leading an industry, especially through tumultuous times, like in my case, regulations. People's jobs depend on you, people's livelihoods depend on you. There is no, sorry guys, I'm sorry that society's having this problem, but I really need to attend my friend's 2 year old's birthday party. Like, that's just, it doesn't work that way. So the problem happens is that getting there is one thing, but then when you're there, keeping that level, staying at that level is a whole other trip. And that is all consuming. So anybody who was supportive of you on the way, who now that you're there, they can't be part of it because you're the one who's there. You know what I mean? They look at you and say, well, you sold out, you changed, you're not a good friend anymore. You never ask me how I'm doing, you don't come for coffee, you don't whatever. And now I see you with all your new work people and, whatever. And are they changing? Yeah, but not because they've sold out necessarily. And the problem is that someone who hasn't got there and isn't living at that level can't understand it. So it's just easier to judge it and malign it. I learned this lesson at 25 while I was still broke. I was warned about this. So I got a gig for a very short time with a world famous celebrity. And I'm not talking everybody knows them. I'm talking globally famous celebrity. The kind of celebrity where you have paparazzi following you every second of the day. So when I found out I got this gig and that I was going to be staying in their home for a week, I was like, now I'm going to see how lucky they are. You know what I mean? And sure enough, I walked in. It was a beautiful mansion. I remember they had couches that when you sat on them, they gave off fragrance. Like, I didn't even know that existed. You know what I mean? Remote control for the toilet kind of fancy, okay? So this big, palatial, beautiful thing, but it was musty. It was really musty. And I thought, that's weird. The big, gorgeous mansion, all fancy, but it's musty. And I'm like, can't you open a window? You know what I mean? Don't you want some fresh air in here? And they couldn't because paparazzi used to hang outside their building with like special sound equipment so that they could eavesdrop on conversations that were happening inside the house. So to prevent that, they used to keep their windows closed all the time. I remember one time seeing a paparazzi lying down at the back of a utility truck, and he had ladders on top of him, and that was to hide. So he was under a ladder with the camera out, So that's like the lengths people used to go to get stuff. Somebody once visited their home while I was there, and they had a document from a big TV, whatever thing in the car, and somebody broke their windshield to steal that document because it was sitting right on the seat of the car. They just accidentally left it there, and one of the paparazzi saw it and literally broke the window to steal that, script or whatever. So the things that you go through when you're at that level, normal people can't understand, and how it impacts your life. So what she warned me, because we had some wonderful conversations, her and I, and like I said, I was still very not successful at the time, broke and just coming up. So I was looking at her as, wow, maybe one day. And she said to me, listen, if you want to be this successful, you better be prepared to lose some friends. And I said, not me, I've had the same friends forever. Like, it's not going to happen. And she says, you can't maintain those same relationships because you will start to understand things differently when you get to a place of success, because you'll have access to information that the general public doesn't have. So you're going to start to get a different understanding of exactly how complicated the world is, and the running of the world is. And so your perceptions are going to shift about things. And your friends who don't have that same access, that you're not necessarily privy to sharing with them, are not going to understand it. So they're going to see you as selling out. So as soon as your friends tell you you've changed or you're a sellout, you've made it. And I found that really unsettling. But as I became more successful, I started to realize that. So I came from a place of activism, and I did a lot of, charity work in my life. It was very important to me. And I had an opportunity to become an executive director of a nonprofit at one point. And I was very excited about that because I felt like I got to monetize or make a job out of something I was very passionate about. And I remember my father saying to me, I'm very concerned that this is going to negatively impact your worldview. And I thought, how? And he says, Daniela, when you're a member of the general public and you look at charities, it's all warm and fuzzy and la. But when you get into the politics of running a charity, because that's what it is, you're going to realize that, and his exact words were, that it's a whorehouse. And you're going to see lots of corruption, lots of backroom deals with politicians and whatever. He goes, what you see is going to disgust you. And I would hate for you to become bitter or not want to help people, because sometimes that happens is you see that kind of corruption and it jades you, so then you're like, well, I don't want anything to do, you know what I mean, and then you become nasty. And he goes, I don't want to see that happen to you, because there are some small grassroots charities that do good work and that are run by good people. So you just have to be very discerning of who you partner with, because some of the biggest flashiest ones are the most disgusting, and the most trusted ones are the most disgusting. And that's going to be hard pill for you to swallow without it changing you in a negative way. So sure enough, I got into I thought he was exaggerating, and that's exactly what happened. The biggest, flashiest, most trusted charity there is, so literally the biggest there is, took $25,000 from me on a contract we were going to work on together, reneged on the contract, but never gave back the money. Yeah, and I spent a ton of, besides the money I gave them, I spent a ton of money on infrastructure to do this project with them. So now I got stuck with, literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff I couldn't use. And they never gave me the money. So they got a free 25 grand and I got shafted. And then they even, to cover their ass, humiliated me in the press by saying that they found new information, which is why they had to do this. That new information turned out to be a fabricated letter written by one of my major competitors, and they never pursued it. He sent them a letter, that was it, they canceled the contract, they never gave me back my money. So that left me hands tied to do anything else. If they had given me back that money, I could have started something else. So they gave me the big shaft, and this is the biggest, most trusted charity there is in Canada. And that was my welcome into the nonprofit world, because I was running a foundation. So I started to see this more and more in my industry, that some of the big flashy charities were doing more gangster type behavior than the gangsters I was trying to lobby against in the business. So it really, that really did affect me. So much so that I left the nonprofit sector to work in the for-profit sector to make sure that the charities that were being supported by this industry were the ones that really deserved it, and not just they had a name because they have big lobbyists and marketing company that make you think they're trustworthy. So instead, now I'm able to choose the charities where I know people get fed and things get done, and I'm the one that gets to decide who gets the money, who I partner with. So this way, I'm not having a witness, I'm having a direct change in who gets funded, and that's how I find my peace without becoming jaded and bitter. So that's not even what this is about. So as you start to shift and change, and you start to realize things are more complicated than you thought or whatever, you start to change your opinion about how things should be done. You start to change your opinion about political things, because now I have access to insider information potentially. So now you realize sometimes the saints are actually the villains and vice versa. So now you might change politically. So your friends they're not going through this process with you. They watched you get here, but they 100 hours a week, minute by minute, aren't experiencing this with you. So they're not going through that same evolution. They're a witness. So to them, you've sold out. You've become something else. You've whatever. And that's just because your perceptions and your opinions on things change. But aside from that, now your lifestyle changes. You're not around for coffees anymore and text chats, and you don't think to check up on them, because for someone who lives their week 9 to 5 and they volunteer twice a week and they have their television show schedule memorized. You know what I mean? So every Thursday, it's whatever TV show night. Oops, is TV show night. For them, the weeks go by slow. It's slow, right? When you're working 100 hours a week, 6 months feels like a week. So you don't even realize 4 months just went by and you haven't talked to anybody you know. You know what I mean? You don't even have a chance to think on that level. And then when you do get a rare moment or day where nobody's expecting anything of you, the last thing you're thinking of is, let me catch up with my friends. You're thinking, today I'm not getting out of bed. I don't want to talk to anybody. Because if you are a leader of industry or whatever, odds are those 100 hours a week that you're working is talking to people. So your brain is so fried, you don't even want to talk about the weather. You just want silence. And that's what people don't understand. So well, you know what? You were home, like you were. I saw that you didn't go anywhere. Yeah, because I finally got a chance to be at home. You know what I mean, or whatever. So how does your day look when you're a change maker? Like Elon Musk says. With me, it usually starts as soon as I wake up. I go on my WhatsApp because I have my media company, right? I'm catching up with my business partner. What is she doing that day? What do we need to do that day? What's been happening? What is our cast saying? What's your potential client saying? I need a quote for this. Can you get me an invoice for that? So we get ourselves organized very, very early in the morning before sometimes I've even peed. You know what I mean? Then I have to get my social media stuff organized for my retail client. So then I have to get all that organized and done. And then for my other businesses, do they need anything? Because I manage all of our social media. So that's done. Then at about 9:30, the reclamation company calls. And then we get organized for the day and what needs to be done or whatever. And then I actively start working on that stuff. So that takes up a good part of my day. And then from there, I have to go back on social media to check everybody's pages and make sure we're all good. And then I have to do my emails. So I get about 100 emails a day. Not that I have to return all of them, but I get a lot of them. That takes time to go through all that shit. So then I have to do my emails. And while all this is happening, my phone is ringing because I have a media company and a textile reclamation company. Plus, I do a lot of consulting politically and I volunteer politically and in the community. So I'm like this all day and I'm trying to do tasks and whatever all day as my phone is going. And then by the afternoon, I hear back from my business partner on what happened of the day, what we need to do, conversations we need to have. And her and I, this is not sometimes, it's often, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, we're having conversations on WhatsApp. And then 11 o'clock at night, we're having conversations on WhatsApp. And so, I've got clients that call me 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. So from, 6:37 in the morning till, 11 o'clock midnight, I'm nonstop. Nonstop. Even if I'm at home, I'm nonstop. So when my brain is going when two different companies plus political and going crazy and then community things that come up and whatever, and then you're gonna get mad at me because I didn't text you to see how you're doing. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of that's selfish. Like here I am trying to save the world but you're so important and I'm supposed to forget all of society to remember your kid's piano recital or to even give a shit about the piano recital. You know what I mean? So it makes you a bad friend. It does. And then it does look like it's all about you. But all about you is all about the world because odds are if you're living at that intensity, you're trying to make a change for the world. And that's a lot bigger than you. But from an outside person looking in, all you care about is your career. People understand that your career is helping society. So it's a small sacrifice you have to pay, is a social sacrifice, a lifestyle sacrifice in order to create that legacy that most people will never create. And the thing is that unless your friends want to get there, to them, they will always judge what you do as not good enough. Because if they don't, then they have to judge themselves as underachievers. You know what I mean? Now, am I saying that someone who's working 80 to 100 hours a week to build legacy is living the better life? Oh, I don't know about that. one of my friends said it to me this morning. We were chatting, and she says, when I look at some people who maybe don't have a career, a title, or whatever, but they're traveling the world, they're having these great experiences, and I feel like I'm on a rat wheel. Like, who's the one living the good life here? Some people have nothing, but they have everything. And actually, even my dad said this to me. So he spent a day in an area that's not so great. And the people that hung out there were visibly not doing that great, but there was a lot of happiness there. And these were like, working individuals. I'm not talking about homeless or whatever. This was just uh, not even remotely close to middle class neighborhood. Let's put it that way. But, everybody was at the park and sitting on their stoops and laughing and playing. And even the adults, were leisurely, had a good time. I just came back from my shift, crack a beer. And now they're going to spend the whole night on a lawn chair with their friends chatting. And all we do, because we're a family of workaholics, is work. And our work is very stressful. So we spend 75% of our time in very serious thought, you know what I mean? Or dealing with really intense issues. But we see ourselves as successful because we've reached a certain stature. But really, who's the happier one? Because it's certainly not us. With all the success we've achieved or whatever, there's rarely any joy or bliss going on because we're constantly putting out fires. We're constantly, hustling to stay at this level. So, I mean, everything I'm saying right now is not to glorify being a workaholic or a change maker, because it is truly a sacrifice. Even with all the trimmings you get, it's a rough, hard life, and it's hard to remain connected. It's hard to keep your friendships. It's all this stuff is hard because you become increasingly isolated. The more information you have access to, the more understanding about things that you now have because of the information you have, you become increasingly more isolated. You change your political views on things. You start to learn the severity of certain things that then make you way more intense about those issues, and your friends will misinterpret that. A big part of my focus in my career has been on the empowerment of women and that sort of thing. And but my political views in regards to how I work on that has changed dramatically in the last, even 2 years. And so I have become quite vocal against certain forms, let's say, of feminism that maybe at once I was very ardently supportive of. And I've since now found a better understanding about things, so I'm coming at it from a different direction. I'm still as committed to women as I've ever been. As a matter of fact, maybe more so, because I feel like now I've seen the damage of certain belief systems or certain limiting beliefs. And I feel like I need to undo that because I was on that Kool-Aid for so long. I've actually had a friend tell me that she felt I was no longer working for sisterhood, and that I was, not wanting to be harmonious or not wanting harmony in the world or whatever, because I had changed my opinion about one thing. So because I changed my opinion about this one thing, to her, I abandoned all of feminism, which is not the case at all. I'm actually more inspired than I've ever been. You know what I mean? But from her perception, because her box of understanding is like this, she perceived my change of manner, my change of opinion, my, you know what I mean, my ardent change of opinion as an abandonment of the whole thing, you know? So people just don't understand, and you will lose those friends. They won't try to understand where you're from, right? They won't. They will judge what you do as bad because then that validates their choices. And people that will only ever be, even if they're top of their field in their little box, they're never going to be big in the world in terms of, you know what I mean, Elon Musk stature. Not that I'm ever gonna get there either. I'm not. I'll probably never be an Elon Musk either. And not everybody has to be, I'm never gonna be Madonna, but there's different levels, right? Of impact or whatever. So in textile reclamation, let's say, I've got pretty high up there, or, dealing in volunteer politics, I'm doing pretty good there. but I'm never going to be whatever, XYZ. But, I'm probably never going to be here either anymore, right? Like I'm kind of somewhere, in the lower tiers going to the middle. But some people are never going to even reach, they're barely going to scratch the surface of that. And so it's just easier for them to malign everything above their ceiling. So they will say that where they've reached is the Puritan way to be, and it's the moral way to be, and anything in excess of that is now something to malign. So then you don't have to feel bad that you're never going to get it, you know. So you will fall, the more successful you come, even if you're never going to get to the top, right? The more successful you become, the more people you're outstepping. And it's not jealousy, it's not whatever, it's a lack of understanding. They will perceive your lifestyle, your hours, your lack of connection with them or whatever as a personal insult, or as a, or personal change that's negative in you. They won't see that, wow, my friend just got to leadership status. My friend is really impacting the world. And what you now become is an ally, should you choose to. And I have many friends like this that I could speak to them once a year and it's like no time has passed at all. And they don't need me to check in on them and give them all this attention and my blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Because they get that my head is here. So what they do for me as a friend is not put that pressure on me. You know what I mean? And when I can, or when I think of it, whatever, we reach out, catch up really quick. When we get to see each other, it's amazing, and I know that no matter what happens in life, they're always going to be there. And they know that when they're having a moment where they're really needing somebody, they know, as busy as I am or whatever, I'll be there for them in a crisis. So use me when you need me type deal. You know what I mean? When you need me, I'm here for you. And the better I do and the more successful I am and in the more position of power I am, that only benefits people potentially that maybe one day have a great idea they want to put forth or whatever, and they need an ally somewhere powerful. They've got one. They've got one. But if you're going to be the high maintenance friend that gets resentful because you don't come anywhere anymore and you never come, if you're going to be that person, you become a drain on their energy. And understand that as much as your ego thinks you're the most important thing on the planet, when somebody has to choose between helping society or feeding the ego of one broken person, you're never going to be the person that wins in that ultimatum. It's always going to be the greater good that wins. And your broken ego is not anybody's problem, priority, or whatever. And if it's easier for you to call them a sellout or insult them or whatever, I've lost so many friends that way. So many friends. And I've seen lots of friends go through this too, where they reach a certain level and their regular friends don't get it. So then they judge it. And that's why you see leaders hang out together, because we get it. There's that camaraderie there that we're all really tired and exhausted and haven't seen our friends and families for a while, and then they end up becoming close friends because we're working together, you're spending lots of time together and there's nobody else around, you know what I mean? So then you kind of coalesce. A bunch of exhausted people, burnt out people, taking a moment to, enjoy each other. So in gratitude, because we understand each other. So it's not an elitist thing. It's not that some people sell out, although I'm sure some people do. And it's not that. It's that the more you know and the more you do, it changes you. It shifts you, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's our egos that tell us it's bad, but it's not. So it's nicer to be the friend that's, I'll always be here for you. You don't need to call me every 5 minutes. I'm a grown up. But when you need me, I'm here. And it's great to know that when I need you, you're going to be there. Now that's a true friend.